Tonight's story takes us to the mountains of the Philippines, where something ancient wasn't bound by night. They should have stayed in Dumaguete. That was what Marissa Calderon would think later, replaying the memory again and again. The salt smell of the pier, the lazy churn of the sea, the easy laughter that morning. If they had stayed, nothing else would have happened. No village, no road, no wings beating in the dark. But Dumaguete felt safe, and safety makes people careless. The plan had been simple. 3 days, beaches, waterfalls, food trips, a rented Toyota coaster, just big enough for everyone without feeling like a tour bus. They'd circle south from Dumaguete, past Awan, swing inland toward Mabinay, then loop back down to the coast through Visayan before returning north. Easy, fun, Instagram-worthy. That was the word Leo kept using. Adventure, he said, clapping his hands as the bus door slid shut. This is an adventure. The kids cheered. The bus rolled out just after 9 in the morning. Sunlight bouncing off the chrome jeepneys lining the road. Dumaguete slipped behind them. Cafes, tricycles, university buildings, replaced by coconut trees and long stretches of highway where the sea flashed blue between trunks. There were 9 of them. Marissa and her husband Joel, their 2 children, Nina, 12, already buried in her phone, and Sam, 8, wide-eyed and vibrating with excitement. Joel's sister Rhea, who had insisted on coming just to relax, and her husband Mark, a quiet man who filmed everything instead of talking. Then Leo, Marissa's cousin, loud and restless, who had organized the trip. And finally, Tessa and Miguel, friends of the family, new parents who'd brought along their niece Ivy, 14, sharp-eyed and too observant for her own good. 9 people. Enough noise to drown out doubt. The driver, Kuya Nestor, was older than he looked from behind the wheel. Sun-darkened skin, thick forearms, a rosary wrapped twice around the gearshift. He'd driven this route 100 times, he said. Knew every bend, every pothole, every stretch where the signal dropped dead. You go, Mabinay? First? He asked in Cebuano, glancing at Leo through the mirror. Yes, Kuya. Waterfalls, caves. Then Bayawan, Leo said. Relax, Lang. Nestor nodded. But his eyes lingered on the rosary a second too long. The first hour passed easily. They stopped at roadside stalls near Dowan, bought grilled corn and boiled bananas wrapped in leaves. The kids chased each other across gravel parking lots, while Joel filmed short clips for a vlog he'd probably never finish. The sun pressed down warm and generous, and everything felt normal. The kind of normal you don't notice until it's gone. The land slowly changed as they climbed inland. The air cooled. The trees grew taller, thicker. The road narrowed, winding upward into hills where limestone cut through the earth like bone. Forest pressed close on both sides, dark green, heavy, buzzing with insects that never seemed to pause. This is nice, Rhea said, leaning her head against the window. Quiet. Ivy didn't answer. She was watching the forest, watching the way the canopy thickened overhead until the road felt less like a highway and more like a tunnel. Watching the way birds had stopped singing somewhere in the last kilometer, and she hadn't noticed exactly when. At first, Marissa didn't notice anything wrong. Just a small tightening in her chest, the way you feel when the road bends too sharply or the light shifts too suddenly. A feeling she dismissed as carsickness, as nothing. Then the bus slowed. Why are we stopping? Sam asked. Nestor eased the vehicle onto the shoulder. Gravel crunched beneath the tires like snapping fingers. The engine coughed once, then again, then died. Silence rushed in, thick and immediate, the kind of silence that has weight, that presses against your ears and dares you to fill it. What happened? Leo asked, half laughing. Nestor turned the key. Again. Nothing. Not even a click. The dashboard lights flickered once and went dark. He frowned, climbed out, and popped the hood. Heat rolled up in waves. The forest hummed louder now, cicadas rising and falling like breathing, like something very large was inhaling and exhaling all around them. The kids piled out, despite Marissa's protests. Stay close, she said automatically. The road was empty in both directions. No cars, no motorcycles, no sign that anything had passed this way in hours. Just the ribbon of asphalt disappearing into trees that leaned inward like they were listening. How long? Joel asked, joining Nestor at the front. Nestor wiped his hands on a rag. His movements were slow, careful. The way a man moves when he's trying not to show fear. Battery, not the problem. Something else. He looked down the road, then back at them. Signal, here. Mahina, weak. Leo shrugged. We wait. It's fine. That was when Ivy spoke. There's a village, she said. Everyone turned. She was pointing. Not down the road, but toward the trees. A narrow dirt path, barely visible beneath ferns and hanging moss, curved away from the shoulder into shadow. There, she said. I saw our roofs. Marissa frowned. She followed Ivy's finger and saw it too. Just a hint of shape between leaves. Corrugated metal catching a sliver of sunlight. Smoke rising thin and gray, the kind that comes from cooking fires or from things being burned. A barangay, Mark said, already reaching for his camera. Good. We can ask for help. Nestor hesitated. His hand drifted to the rosary in his pocket and stayed there. That place. I don't remember a barangay there. Leo was already moving. Kuya, it's fine. We just ask for a phone. They left the bus behind. The path narrowed quickly. Dirt turning soft underfoot. Roots twisted across the ground like veins. The air smelled damp. Soil and old leaves. And something faintly sour. Something organic and wrong that none of them could name. The village emerged slowly, as if reluctant to be seen. A cluster of houses stood in a clearing, wooden and low, some raised on stilts that had darkened with age. Chickens scratched at the dirt. A single sari-sari store sat near the center. Its shelves almost bare, a few sachets, some dusty cans, nothing fresh. No one spoke. That was the first strange thing. They could see movement. Shadows behind windows, a curtain twitching, the quick retreat of a small figure behind a doorway. But no one came out. No greetings. No curious stares. In every Filipino village Marissa had ever visited, strangers drew attention instantly. Children running, mothers smiling, dogs barking. Here, the dogs watched from under the houses and did not move. Hello? Leo called. His voice sounded too loud, too exposed. A woman finally stepped forward from the store. Elderly, thin, her hair pulled back tight, her eyes sharp and black as river stones. She moved with the stiffness of someone who had learned long ago that the world was not kind. You are lost, she said flatly, not a question. Our bus broke down, Marissa said. We just need to call. The woman shook her head. No signal here. Nestor shifted behind them. His hand tightened around the rosary. We will leave soon, the woman added. Before dark. The way she said it, before dark, carried more weight than the words should have held. Not a preference, a deadline. How far is the next town? Joel asked. The woman's gaze slid to Ivy, lingered there. Something flickered in her expression. Recognition or pity. Marissa couldn't tell. Too far to walk, she said. And the road is not safe. From what? Leo laughed. The woman did not smile. From what walks? When it separates, she said. The forest behind the houses rustled. Not wind. Something heavier. Something deliberate. Something moved high above the canopy. Too large for a bird, too slow for a bat. Ivy felt it first. The pressure in her ears. The sudden certainty that they were being watched. Not from the houses. Not from the trees. From above. Then she heard it. A sound like fabric tearing. Wet. Heavy. Like muscle pulling away from bone. High. Far. But unmistakably close. The sound came again. Closer this time. Much closer. A wet, tearing noise, followed by a dull thump somewhere beyond the tree line. The sound of something heavy landing on soft earth. The ground didn't shake, but the air changed. The temperature dropped 2 degrees in a single breath. Sam clutched Marissa's hand. Mom? Everyone back, Joel said, low and sharp. Now, the old woman stepped backward, already retreating toward the store. She moved faster than her age should have allowed. You should not have come, she muttered. Not today? Leo laughed again, but his voice cracked this time, the sound brittle and wrong. Okay, we'll go. Kuya, let's go. They turned back toward the path. That was when the screaming started. Not human. Too high. Too sharp. It ripped through the trees like metal dragged across bone, vibrating in their teeth, in the hollows behind their eyes. The sound didn't fade. It stopped, cut off like a switch being thrown. The silence afterward was worse. The chickens scattered, flapping wildly into the undergrowth. Dogs began barking from somewhere unseen, frantic, desperate barks that rose in pitch and then fell abruptly silent, one by one, as if each dog had been grabbed mid-bark and squeezed shut. What the hell was that? Rhea whispered. Nestor crossed himself. His lips moved in prayer. Manananggal, he said. It is awake. The word landed heavy. Everyone knew it. Everyone had heard the stories growing up. The creature that tore itself in half at night, wings bursting from its back, entrails dangling as it hunted pregnant women and the vulnerable. But those were stories. Campfire talk. Things aunties whispered to scare children into obedience. This sound was real. Run, Nestor shouted. They didn't argue. They sprinted back down the dirt path, branches slapping faces, roots grabbing ankles. Marissa's sandal caught on a stone, and she nearly went down, Joel hauling her upright without breaking stride. The forest seemed to close around them, shadows stretching longer than they should have been, leaves whispering too loudly, not in wind, but in something else. Above them, wings, a massive shape, swept between the trees, too fast to track. The canopy shook violently where it passed, branches snapping and raining down around them. Something shrieked again, closer now, and the air pulsed with it, a pressure wave that made their eardrums flex. Don't look up, Joel yelled. Too late. Ivy glanced skyward. She saw leathery wings stretched impossibly wide, 10 feet at least, membrane thin enough to see veins pulsing beneath. A pale torso. Female, severed cleanly at the waist, its lower half missing entirely. Dark intestines trailed below it like wet rope. Black hair streamed behind it like smoke against the gray sky. And its face. Human. Female. Smiling. The thing, dove. Mark screamed as something struck the ground behind them, cracking dirt, snapping a young tree in half. The shockwave knocked Sam off his feet and sent him tumbling into the undergrowth. Marissa fell with him, scraping her palms raw on exposed roots. Blood welled instantly, hot and bright. "Get up," she cried, hauling him upright. His shirt was torn. His eyes were wide as coins. They burst from the trees onto the road. The bus sat there like a promise. Metal and glass, and the illusion of safety. Inside, Leo shouted. They piled in, slamming doors. Bodies crashed against seats. Nestor twisted the key with shaking hands. The engine coughed. Nothing. He tried again. The starter motor ground uselessly. A dying mechanical groan. The shadow passed over the bus. The interior went dark for a full second. Every window blocked by something impossibly wide gliding overhead. The metal roof rang like it had been struck by a sledgehammer. Scree. The sound rattled teeth. Children screamed. Tessa pulled Nina beneath a seat. Something scraped along the side of the bus. Claws dragging, slow and deliberate. The sound of metal peeling, of patience, of something that had all the time in the world. "Everyone, stay down," Joel yelled. A face appeared at the window, upside down, hair hanging like black seaweed, eyes milky white, pupilless, filmed over like a dead fish, mouth split too wide, wider than any human jaw should allow, teeth blackened and sharp, each one different, each one wrong. It tapped the glass. Once, twice, a gentle, almost playful sound. Then it flew off, vanishing into the forest with a crack of wings. Silence followed, thick, waiting, alive with something none of them could name. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Nestor exhaled, shaking so badly the steering wheel vibrated beneath his hands. "It tests," he said. "It waits. For dark." "We're not staying here," Leo said. "Fix the bus. I need parts," Nestor said. "Or help." Ria's voice trembled. "The village." "No." The old woman's words echoed in Marissa's head. Before dark. But the alternative was worse. They ran. This time, the village was alive when they returned, but alive the wrong way. Doors slammed shut. As soon as the villagers saw them coming, curtains snapped closed. Locks turned. A man shouted something angry in Cebuano from behind a fence, waving them away with both hands. "Please," Marissa cried. "There are children." A younger woman appeared briefly at a window. Fear carved deep into her face. "You must leave," she whispered through the screen. "It smells you." "What does that mean?" Ivy asked. The woman's eyes flicked upward. "It knows you are strangers. It knows you don't belong here." A distant shriek answered her. Closer than before, dark clouds rolled in fast, swallowing the sun like a hand closing over a candle flame. The temperature plummeted. Wind bent the trees sideways. The old woman from before emerged again, gripping a bolo knife that looked older than she was. Her expression had hardened beyond fear into something Marissa could only call acceptance. "One of you will not leave," she said flatly. "That is how it works." "What?" Leo snapped. "That's insane." "Someone must stay," she said, "or it will follow all of you." Thunder cracked overhead, so loud the ground shook. Something landed on a nearby roof. The corrugated metal caved inward like paper. The stilts beneath the house groaned and buckled. Dust exploded outward. Screams erupted from inside the house. The Manananggal dropped through the roof like a blade falling. Blood splashed the walls, visible through the shattered window, dark against peeling paint. The screaming cut off. Not faded, cut, like a recording being stopped. Chaos exploded. Villagers ran in every direction. Children cried. The creature emerged again through the ruined roof, lifting into the air with heavy, deliberate wing beats. Its mouth stained dark, strings of something wet hanging from its jaw. Its eyes fixed on the group. On them. "Back to the bus," Joel shouted. They ran as the sky darkened completely, the forest coming alive with movement, rustling, cracking, things scattering in every direction, as if the whole mountain was trying to get away from what flew above it. Behind them, wings beat harder, faster, hunting. They didn't make it far. The road twisted downhill, asphalt slick as rain began to fall hard and sudden, pounding the trees flat, turning the surface to glass. Headlights cut weak tunnels through the dark. Every shadow felt like movement. Every sound was wings. The bus rattled as Nestor pushed it faster than it wanted to go, the engine screaming at a pitch that matched the thing behind them. "Kuya, faster!" Leo shouted. "I am all ready." The engine sputtered, then screamed, then died with a sound, like a last breath. The bus lurched violently and coasted, momentum carrying them a few more meters before the vehicle rolled to a stop, angled awkwardly across the road. The headlights flickered, went dark. No one breathed. Rain hammered the roof, relentless, deafening. Above the rain, flap, slow, heavy. Something landed behind them. The road cracked under its weight. Sam whimpered. Nina clamped her hand over his mouth, eyes wide, tears streaming silently. "Don't cry," she whispered. "Don't make noise." The scraping sound returned. Closer, closer. Something moved along the side of the bus again. But this time, it didn't tap. It dragged. Metal screeched as claws gouged deep into the side panel, peeling it back in long strips. The bus rocked as weight pressed against it, tilting the frame, popping rivets. Joel braced himself against the aisle. Everyone out the other side. "Now." "What?" Rhea gasped. "Out the right door," he said. "When I say," the scraping stopped. Silence. Every muscle in every body locked rigid. Then the roof caved inward. A massive claw punched through the metal above Leo's seat, ripping it open like aluminium foil. Rain poured through the hole, instantly soaking everything below. The claw retracted, then punched again, widening the gap, tearing the bus apart piece by piece. Scree! The Manananggal dropped onto the roof, its wings folding grotesquely against its body, like a bat settling onto a branch. Its torso twisted, spine cracking audibly, vertebrae popping, and its head snapped down to peer through the torn metal. Its eyes locked onto Leo. He froze. Every cell in his body told him to run, but his legs refused. He stared up into that face, that smiling, impossible face, and felt his thoughts go white. The creature smiled wider. Joel slammed the emergency door open. Run. They spilled into the rain, slipping on wet asphalt and screaming as they bolted down the road. The forest swallowed them instantly. Branches whipping faces, mud sucking shoes free, the ground alive beneath them. Behind them, wings. The creature tore free of the bus with a shriek of metal and launched into the air, banking hard between trees, shrieking as it dove after them. Split up. Leo yelled. No, Marissa shouted, but it was too late. In the chaos, Mark slipped on wet leaves and went down hard. His camera smashed against a rock. He screamed as something yanked his leg backward, dragging him across the mud. Rhea turned. Mark! The Manananggal dropped from above, slamming into the ground between them. The impact sent a shockwave through the earth that knocked Marissa flat. Joel tried to get up, tried to run, but the creature was already on Mark. It didn't tear him apart. It didn't need to. The Manananggal leaned close, face inches from his, and screamed. The sound wasn't loud. It was wrong. A frequency that bypassed ears and went straight to the brain. A vibration that shook something loose inside him. Something essential. Mark convulsed once. Then went still. His eyes stayed open. His mouth stayed frozen, mid-scream. But whatever had been behind those eyes was gone. Rhea screamed his name again and again as Joel dragged her away, her nails tearing into his arms, drawing blood she didn't notice. The creature lifted its head slowly. It sniffed the air, long, deep, savoring. Rain washed the blood away, but the smell remained, and it wanted more. They ran until their lungs burned raw, and the forest finally thinned. Trees giving way to open land, sugarcane fields bending flat under the storm. The stalks whipped against their legs as they pushed through, blind and gasping. Lights appeared ahead. Dim, yellow, human, a town. Mabinay. Nestor gasped. We're close. The Manananggal screamed again. Angry now, frustrated. The sound echoed off the hills, multiplied, came from everywhere at once. It rose into the air and swept low over the sugarcane field, cutting them off. Stalks exploded in its wake, shredded to pulp by wing and claw. Joel skidded to a stop. The others crashed into each other behind him. The creature hovered 10 feet above the ground, wings beating rain sideways in violent sheets. Its body twisted unnaturally, spine cracking as vertebrae realigned. It smiled at them the way a cat smiles at a cornered mouse. You cannot leave, it hissed, voice wet and layered, like two mouths speaking at once, one human, one something older. The children cried openly now. Sam pressed his face into Marissa's leg. Nina stood rigid, jaw locked, refusing to make a sound. Nestor stepped forward, trembling. Rosary clenched so tight the beads cut into his palm. In the name of, the creature lunged. Joel tackled Nestor out of the way, just as claws slashed where his head had been. Air displaced with a sound like a whip crack. Hair moved on the back of Joel's neck. Move, Joel shouted. They broke left, toward the lights. The creature screamed and pursued. But something was different now. It hesitated, pulled back. The lights ahead seemed to press against it like a wall it couldn't quite see. Then, church bells rang. The sound cut through the rain. Loud, steady, ancient. Not frantic, measured. As if the bells had been waiting all night for exactly this moment. The Manananggal shrieked in pain and veered sharply upward, retreating into the clouds. The sound of its wings faded rapidly, growing smaller, weaker, swallowed by storm and distance. They didn't stop running until they collapsed on wet concrete beneath the church awning, gasping like drowning survivors pulled from the sea. People stared. Someone screamed. Someone else called for help. Inside, candles burned bright, dozens of them, steady and unafraid. The priest rushed forward, eyes wide as he took in their state. The blood, the mud, the terror etched into every face. What happened? No one could answer. The rain continued to fall outside, but the forest stayed silent. Too silent, Joel knew, deep in his bones, in that place where instinct lives before language reaches it, that it wasn't over. The Manananggal hadn't stopped hunting. It had only learned where they were going. The church doors slammed shut behind them. Rain battered the stone walls, wind forcing its way through narrow windows with a low moan. But inside, candles burned steady, small, stubborn flames refusing to die. Ria collapsed first. Her knees hit the floor hard, a sound swallowed by her sobbing. She clutched Mark's broken camera to her chest, like it might still carry warmth. He was right there. She kept saying. He was right there. No one knew how to answer that. No one tried. Joel stood near the doors, chest heaving, eyes locked on the dark outside. Every shadow felt like movement. Every gust of wind made his shoulders tense, like a man expecting a blow. The priest, Father Alberto, middle-aged, eyes sharp with something between faith and fear, made the sign of the cross over the children. "You are not the first," he said quietly, "but you are lucky." "Lucky?" Leo snapped. "Someone died." Father Alberto's jaw tightened. "Lucky to reach consecrated ground." Nestor sank onto a pew, shaking. "It followed us," he whispered, "from the village." "It learned." Ivy looked up sharply. "Learned what?" "That you run," Nestor said. "That you are afraid. It knows your patterns now." The church doors shuddered. Once, twice. Everyone froze. A shadow passed over the stained glass windows, wings blotting out candlelight, turning saints dark. Sam screamed. The Manananggal shrieked outside, a furious, frustrated sound that made the walls vibrate. Claws scraped stone, slowly, deliberately, circling the building like a predator testing a cage. "It can't enter," Father Alberto said, but there was doubt in his voice now, a hairline crack in his certainty. The scraping stopped. Silence again. Minutes passed. Then, longer. The candles burned lower. Rain softened to a drizzle. The creature was gone. Or so they thought. They stayed the night. There was no choice. Phones had no signal. Roads were unsafe. No one dared leave before sunrise. The church hall became a makeshift shelter. Blankets appeared from a storage closet. Water was passed around. No one slept. Not really. Every creak was wings. Every gust was breath. Around 3 a.m, Ivy noticed something strange. The dogs outside were barking again. But they weren't barking at the forest. They were barking at the road. She nudged Joel. "Someone's outside." Joel moved quietly to a window and peered through the glass. A woman stood under a streetlight, barefoot, wearing a simple dress, clean and dry, despite the rain that still fell around her. Her hair hung long and black, plastered to her face. She looked human. Too human. She raised her head slowly and smiled. The same smile. That exact smile. Too wide, too knowing, too pleased. Joel stumbled back. Father Alberto crossed himself. It imitates. The woman outside tilted her head, listening. Then she spoke. Her voice carrying clearly through the night, through stone and glass, impossibly clear. You cannot stay forever. The streetlight shattered. Darkness swallowed the road. The dogs went silent. At dawn, the woman was gone. The streetlight was cold and dead. Glass lay scattered across the wet pavement like teeth. But the message remained. They buried Mark before noon. A shallow grave near the churchyard. No coffin, just a tarp. And prayers said too quickly. Rhea stood at the edge and did not cry. That scared Marissa more than the screaming had. By late morning, help arrived. A battered pickup from Dumaguete, sent after a call, finally went through on a borrowed satellite phone. Another driver, younger, less steady. His hands shook on the wheel before they'd even started moving. We go now, Joel said firmly. His arm was swollen, bruised deep purple from the creature's near miss the night before. Straight to Dumaguete. No stops. The road out of Mabinay felt different in daylight. Still beautiful, but wrong now. The hills watched. The trees leaned closer. Birds sat in rows on power lines and did not sing. Ivy sat by the window, eyes scanning constantly. Sky, road, tree line, sky again. A rhythm. A pattern of vigilance she would never fully lose. What if it follows us again? Nina whispered. It won't, Leo said, forcing confidence. Daytime. We're fine. The sky darkened anyway. Clouds rolled in thick and fast, swallowing the sun like a closing fist. Not storm clouds. These were something else. Too dark, too low, moving against the wind. Joel felt it then. The certainty settling into his chest like a stone. It's not bound by night, he said quietly. Not anymore. The pickup jolted violently. The engine sputtered, coughed, and stalled. Dead. No. Leo breathed. No. No. The wind picked up. Leaves swirled across the road in spirals that didn't follow any natural pattern. Something screamed in the distance, closer than before, coming fast. The Manananggal dropped from the clouds ahead of them, landing on the road with a wet, cracking sound that split the asphalt beneath it. It unfolded its wings, slowly. One was damaged. The side Joel's blow had caught, hanging at an angle, membrane torn. But the other stretched wide, blocking the road completely, smiling. You left one, it hissed. That is not enough. Rhea stepped forward. Joel grabbed her arm, but she pulled free with a strength that surprised him. I'll go, she said calmly, too calmly. Let them go. The creature tilted its head, amused. Its tongue, too long, too thin, traced along its lips. You already gave, it said. Now, I take. It lunged. Joel shoved Rhea aside and raised the bolo knife Father Alberto had pressed into his hands that morning, blessing it with oil, and whispered Latin. The blade struck flesh. Black blood splattered the road, thick, reeking, steaming where it touched asphalt. The creature screamed, real pain this time, and recoiled, wings beating wildly, retreating into the air. It circled once, twice, shrieking, then banked hard and disappeared into the unnatural clouds. Joel collapsed to his knees, shaking, the bolo knife slick in his grip. They didn't wait. The driver hotwired the engine back to life, and they ran. The pickup screaming down the mountain road as darkness chased them toward the coast. They ran until Dumaguete's port lights finally appeared. Bright, human, real. The ferry horn sounded. Hope surged so hard it hurt. Behind them, wings beat once more. Concrete replaced dirt. Streetlights burned yellow against the rain. Dumaguete rose ahead. Jeepneys closed shops, the faint glow of the port like a promise that might still break. The pickup rattled dangerously as it barreled down the highway. Engine whining. Faster, Leo shouted. I can't. The driver yelled back. It'll die. Joel twisted around in the bed of the truck, clutching the bolo knife, eyes scanning the sky. Nothing. That scared him more than the screaming. Ivy stared upward. She saw it first. Left. She screamed. The Manananggal dropped out of the clouds like a stone. It slammed into the road ahead of them, asphalt cracking beneath its weight. Wings spread wide. Even the damaged one, forced open through sheer fury, blocking the lane completely. The driver swerved hard. The pickup fishtailed, clipped the curb, and skidded sideways, metal screaming as it smashed into a parked tricycle. They spilled out onto the street. The creature rose slowly, savoring it now. Black blood still dripped from its side where the bolo had cut deep. Wing dragged uselessly, but its smile was wider than ever. You run well, it said, but roads end. Joel stepped forward again, heart hammering. Go, he shouted. Go. Leo grabbed Rhea and pulled her away as Joel charged. The bolo knife flashed. The creature caught his arm mid-swing. Bones cracked. Joel heard them before he felt them. A sound like sticks breaking inside his own body. Joel screamed. The Manananggal leaned close, breath foul and hot, like meat left in the sun, like something that had been dead and decided to keep moving anyway. You smell like courage, it whispered. I will save you for last. A horn blasted. Bright headlights flared. A bus, full size this time, plowed straight into the creature's side. The impact sent it flying, smashing through a roadside stall in a spray of wood and tarpaulin. Glass exploded. Metal shrieked. The bus screeched to a halt. The driver leaned out, wide-eyed. Saké. Now. They didn't hesitate. They piled in, dragging Joel aboard as the bus roared forward again, tires screaming against wet asphalt. Joel slumped against the aisle, clutching his shattered arm, teeth clenched to keep from passing out. The pain was a living thing. White hot, pulsing with every heartbeat. Marissa pressed her forehead to his. Stay with me. Outside, wings beat again. The Manananggal rose from the wreckage, shrieking in fury, and gave chase. Slower now, damaged, but relentless. Always relentless. The port gates loomed ahead. Ferry lights blazed white against the dark sea. People ran. Security shouted. Sirens wailed. Stop the bus, Leo yelled. The bus slammed to a halt. They spilled out into chaos. The ferry horn sounded again. Last call. The Manananggal dove. It swept low over the crowd, panic exploding as people scattered in every direction. Cars crashed into bollards. A security guard fired his pistol uselessly into the air. The shots echoed once and were swallowed by the creature's scream. The creature landed between the family and the gangway, planted itself there like a wall of wing and claw and hunger. "No one leaves," it hissed. Rhea stepped forward again. Joel tried to grab her, but his broken arm betrayed him, and she slipped from his grasp. "I'm done running," she said softly. Her voice was steady. Her eyes were clear. Whatever fear she'd carried had burned away somewhere on that mountain road, replaced by something harder. Something final. The Manananggal's eyes gleamed. She turned to Marissa. "Take them, please." Then she walked toward the creature. The Manananggal bent low, savoring the offering, its tongue extended, tasting the air around her, tasting her grief, her surrender. And Rhea pulled the lighter from her pocket. She flicked it on. Flames flared. Small, orange, human. The creature recoiled as fire kissed its wing membrane. Real pain. Real fear. It shrieked wildly. Wing igniting like dry paper. Flames racing along the membrane as it thrashed backward. Security rushed forward with extinguishers. Not for the creature, but for the port. And the spray of chemical foam drove it further back. Joel roared. Through the pain, through the shock, through everything, he roared and hurled the bolo knife with his good arm. With everything he had left, the blade buried itself deep into the creature's chest. The Manananggal shrieked once more, a sound that cracked windows and set off car alarms across the port, and launched skyward, trailing smoke and blood as it vanished into the storm clouds above the sea. Black blood rained down on the concrete, hissing where it landed. Silence fell. Rhea collapsed, alive. The fairy horn sounded one last time. They ran. They ran across the gangway as crew shouted and pulled them aboard. Hands reaching, grabbing, hauling them over the threshold. The ship pulled away from the dock as chaos erupted behind them. Ropes fell. Water churned white. The sea opened wide. Only when Dumaguete became a smear of lights did Marissa finally breathe. Joel passed out in her arms. Rhea stared at the water, shaking but upright, the lighter still clutched in her hand. Ivy watched the sky, far above. Something screamed. The ferry pushed on through black water, engine groaning, hull vibrating beneath their feet. Marissa didn't realize she was crying until salt water dripped onto Joel's shirt, mixing with rain and blood. He lay stretched across two benches near the outer deck, breathing shallow but steady, his broken arm immobilized with a sling made from a towel and duct tape. A crewman hovered nearby, pale and shaken. "Medics are waiting in Cebu," he said. 25 minutes. 25 minutes felt like a lifetime. Ivy stood at the railing. She hadn't moved since they left shore. The sea churned black beneath them, moonlight breaking against waves like shattered glass. The wind was sharp, cleaner than the forest air, but colder too. "Hey," Leo said softly, approaching her. His voice had lost all its swagger, all its adventure. "You? Okay." Ivy didn't look at him. "It didn't die." Leo swallowed. "You don't know that." "I do," she said. "It doesn't hunt like animals do. It hunts like memory. It doesn't forget." A scream drifted across the water. Faint, distant, but real. Everyone froze. The scream came again. Closer. From above. The fairy lights flickered once. Then twice. "No," Marissa whispered. "No, no, no." The wind shifted violently. Something slammed into the side of the ship. The impact knocked passengers off their feet. Metal shrieked. Alarms blared. Ivy spun just in time to see it. The Manananggal clung to the ferry's hull like a grotesque gargoyle, one wing torn and blackened, the other beating furiously. The bolo knife was gone from its chest, but the wound remained, a dark, ragged hole leaking black fluid. Its face was ruined now, burned, split, one eye sealed shut with melted skin, but it was smiling all the same. You crossed water. It hissed. That does not save you. Passengers screamed and ran for the interior. The creature began to climb. Each claw dug into metal with a shrill screech, sending vibrations through the entire hull. Methodical, patient, hand over hand. Crewmen tried to hose it down. Water splashed uselessly across its skin. It laughed, a sound like lungs tearing. Ivy's eyes locked onto the creature's abdomen, the ragged, severed edge where its lower half should have been. It's separated, she said suddenly. Its lower half. She turned, scanning the dark sea behind them. There, a shape floated in the ferry's wake. The Manananggal's lower half. Pale legs, bloated torso, bobbing in the waves, trailing black strands like seaweed. Following, tethered by something invisible. Father Alberto's voice echoed in her mind. Find the body. Destroy it. I need salt, Ivy said. Fire. Anything. Leo looked around wildly. Where the hell? The galley. Marissa remembered. Galley doors open. Crates stacked near the rear deck. I'll go, Leo said, already running. The ferry lurched as the creature hauled itself over the railing, wings folding against its back with a wet snap. Passengers scattered. The Manananggal sniffed the air. Its head twitched toward Joel, toward the blood, the weakness, the broken arm. There, it said softly. You, Rhea, stood. Everyone shouted. Marissa screaming, Leo yelling. But Rhea didn't hesitate. You want one? She said, voice shaking but loud. Take me. The creature's head tilted, considering. Joel tried to rise, failed with a cry of pain. The Manananggal lunged, and Ivy slammed a fire extinguisher into its face. The impact staggered it back. Metal rang against bone. The creature shrieked and swung wildly, claws ripping open metal benches, sparks flying across the wet deck. Ivy ducked under a swipe, felt the wind of it part her hair, and ran. Now, she screamed. Leo burst from the galley, carrying a sack of rock salt and a half-empty fuel can. Get back, he shouted. The Manananggal turned. Too late. Leo hurled the fuel can. It burst against the creature's chest, liquid splashing across its burned, ruined torso. Ivy struck the lighter. Flames erupted, roaring, orange, hungry. They engulfed the Manananggal completely. It screamed. Real terror now, not rage. Flailing wildly as fire consumed what the blade and the port fire had started. But it didn't fall. Not yet. It staggered toward Joel, burning, reaching, still smiling through the flames. Rhea grabbed the sack of salt and ripped it open with her teeth. She ran. She threw it with everything she had left. Every ounce of grief and rage and love for a husband she'd buried in a shallow grave that morning. The salt struck the creature mid-charge, coating its burning body in white. The Manananggal shrieked so loudly the ferry horn sounded in response. A sympathetic vibration, metal answering agony. Its wings disintegrated. Membrane curled and crumbled like burning paper, leaving only bone frames that snapped and fell. Its body convulsed, With one final, furious scream, it toppled backward over the railing and fell into the sea. For a moment, nothing happened. The water swallowed it, without sound. Then the sea boiled. Black shapes writhed beneath the surface, thrashing violently, churning the water dark, before sinking, dragged down by something far heavier than flesh. Bubbles rose, thick and black, and then stopped. Behind the ferry, the lower half ignited. Salt, fuel, and fire found across the water. Or something else did. Something that connected one half to the other. Something that meant destroying one, meant destroying both. It burned on the surface, the sea hissing angrily, steam rising in a column that the wind tore apart. The flames were blue at the center, impossibly hot, impossibly bright. Then they went out, and there was nothing left. Silence returned slowly, like blood flowing back into a numb limb. The ferry rocked gently onward. Lights steadied. Alarms quieted, one by one. No one moved. No one breathed. Joel sobbed once, a single broken sound, and Marissa held him and didn't let go. They reached Cebu just before dawn. Medics took Joel away on a stretcher. Police asked questions no one knew how to answer. Statements were taken. Words were said. None of them felt real. Ria sat on the pier, wrapped in a blanket someone had given her, staring at her hands as if unsure they were still hers. The lighter sat on the concrete beside her, empty now, bent. The sun rose pink and soft over the water, beautiful and indifferent, the way the world always is after the worst nights, the way it refuses to acknowledge what happened in the dark. Ivy stood at the edge of the dock. The sea was calm again, too calm, flat as glass, reflecting a sky that looked scrubbed clean. Leo joined her. "It's over," he said. She didn't respond. Far out on the horizon, something broke the surface briefly. A shape, dark, curved, then vanished. Ivy turned away. Some things don't die, she thought. They only learn new ways to travel. And beyond the shore, the old stories are still awake. There will be more